Putin explained yesterday that Ukrainian strikes inside Russia are basically not a problem. Well, they are a problem, just not a problem. Here is what he said. There are no critical consequences from these strikes. There never were and there never can be. And then, almost immediately, but of course they do cause us damage. Perfect. By the way, thank you for watching and supporting my country. I'm Vlad, I'm a journalist from Ukraine. I live through this war, not just a report on it. So, there is damage, there are consequences. Russia has to spend money dealing with them, but they cannot be critical, because Putin said so. And this is exactly why there is no point arguing with him about wars. Let's just look at what Russia is actually doing, because when a government tells you nothing serious is happened, don't watch what it says. Watch what it does. So, warehouses. Over the past few weeks, Ukraine has been hitting major logistics centers across Russia, especially warehouses used by Wildberries. If you've never heard of Wildberries, think of it as Russia's Amazon. And it's huge. Around half of Russia online orders go through his platform. Hundreds of thousands of sellers use it. Some of its warehouses cover hundreds of thousands of square meters, and Ukrainian drones have started hitting this system again and again. Reuters reported that at least around 20 sites had been attacked. Ukrainian says 7 of the company's 10 biggest logistics centers have been knocked out. There are estimates that Wildberries has lost around 20% of its warehouse space. Some estimates put the damage as much as $6 billion. Now, $6 billion is still just an estimate. We do not have Wildberries full accounting book sitting here on my desk, but here's what we do know. Russia's central bank is asking banks to restructure loan for businesses that lost goods. Wildberries is rebuilding its logistics system, offering compensation and moving goods to other sites. And Putin has ordered the government to create a special program to rebuild damaged warehouses. So yes, the situation is not critical. The central bank involved, the government involved, the president is involved. Other than that, everything is completely fine, and warehouses are not even the biggest problem, because if a warehouse full of Chinese sneakers burn down, you can move the next shipment somewhere else. An oil refinery, that gets a little more complicated. So, oil refineries. Ukraine has been hitting Russian oil refineries for a long time, but now this is becoming more than just dramatic video of giant fires. The pressure is starting to show across the system. According to the International Energy Agency, Russian refineries processed around almost 4 million barrels of oil per day in July. That is close to a 20-year low. The last time Russia was around their levels, YouTube was still mostly a website for cat videos. Russia has a lot of oil. The problem is you cannot pour crude oil straight into a Lada. First, you have to turn into a gasoline, diesel and jet fuel, and those are exactly the plants Ukraine is hitting. Take the Orsk refinery. It can process around 6 million tons of oil per year. After Ukrainian strike, the plant completely stopped working. Imported equipment was damaged, and because of sanction, repair could take up to 6 months. A drone damaged a piece of equipment. Then Russia discovered it cannot exactly order a replacement with Amazon Prime. That is where sanction and drones start working together. And then comes the gasoline problem. Not somewhere in a teeny village in Siberia, in Moscow. Reuters reported lines at some gas stations stretching up to a kilometer. Some stations simply ran out of fuel. Rosneft introduced limits of 30 liters per car. Gazpromneft 40 or 60. And then the Russian government started reacting. First is restricted gasoline export, then diesel export, then it relaxed fuel quality standards, and then Russia started importing gasoline. One of the biggest oil producers on earth importing gasoline. That is roughly like Saudi Arabia importing sand. Now, not all of this is because of Ukrainian strike. There is seasonal demand, there are planet repair. There are problems inside Russia on energy system, but the attacks are clearly one of the major factors. And again, you can see that from what the Russian government itself is doing, because if everything is fine, you do not ban export of something you suddenly do not have enough of. You do not lower quality standards, and you definitely do not start buying abroad something you were selling abroad yesterday. And one more thing, the shadow fleet. In recent months, Ukraine has also stepped up attacks on Russia tankers and oil infrastructure in the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov. Ukraine described many of these ships as a part of Russia's shadow fleet. Reuters checked the list, and not every ship that was hit was actually under sanction. So saying that every damaged tanker was some sanctioned Putin tanker would be an exaggeration. But the more interesting number is not the flag on the ship. It's the cost of moving the oil. After the wave of attacks, shipping rates from Novorossiysk to the Mediterranean jumped by roughly 140% according to Bloomberg. War risk insurance costs roughly doubled. The tankers are still sailing. It's just much more expensive now. In August, after an attack, Russia temporarily stopped loading oil at the terminal in Novorossiysk. This is a major terminal, around 700,000 barrels per day. Storage tanks start filling up, so Russia had to stop taking in more oil, and this is important. You do not have to sink the anti-Russia fleet. You do not have to blockade the Black Sea. You just have to make shipping dangerous enough. Then the market does the rest. Insurance gets more expensive. Shipping owners demand more money. Oil move more slowly, and Russia make less money on every barrel. That is what strategic pressure looks like. You make your enemy keep paying for repairs, for logistics, for insurance, air defense, imports, and now back to Putin. No critical consequences. Our houses burn, the government create a rebuilding program, refineries burn, Russia bans gasoline export, Russia runs short of gasoline, Russia start importing gasoline, tankers get attacked, insurance gets more expensive, port get attacked, oil loading stop, the central bank helps business, the government change regulation, oil companies introduce fuel limits. And all of this is apparently called no critical consequences. Just a few completely non-critical fires, some non-critical gasoline lines, a little non-critical gasoline importing, and of course a completely non-critical government reconstruction program. Now there is one important thing we should not exaggerate. These attacks have not broken the Russian economy. Russia is still producing oil. It's still selling oil. It's repairing refineries. It's redirecting supplies, and most importantly, it's still fighting the war. There is no strategic collapse, but Putin is not saying, we're talking the match, but so forth we can handle it. That would actually be a reasonable argument. He is saying, there were no critical consequences and there never can be. And that last part is a strange one. Never can be? How exactly does he know that? Today, one refinery goes down. Tomorrow, maybe 3. The day after day, maybe a port. At the same time, insurance gets more expensive. Refineries, refining files, imports rise, and Russia has to move some air defense system away from the front and put them around oil refineries. Each problem on its own may be manageable. The real question is what happens when they start stacking on top of each other. And that is a part Putin level out. Technically, he can keep saying nothing critical for a very long time, because nobody has defined what critical actually means. As long as the Russian economy has not completely collapsed, he can say, see, not critical, very convenient standard, he can never lose. So if you want to understand whether Ukrainian strikes are working, don't count Putin words, and don't even count the explosion. Look at what Russia has to do after the explosions. Government's decisions are usually more honest than press conference.